honest, you thought I was gone. And you probably missed me. Oh gosh, it's been months since I last did one of these. And yet I knew I had to make one last recording in 2019 and put it out before 2020 hit. I know, I totally didn't deliver in 2019. Trust me. I'm beating myself up about it internally. But what can I say? I think this was probably one of my best years personally. I didn't put up as much content on here because I've had so much going on. But this show means a lot to me. And I made it a point to get this episode done before the end of the year. It's a Q&A episode. Gonna answer some old questions I never got around to answering before. And then I got a big announcement. I want to make it at the end of the show, so feel free to stick around for that. But without further ado, listeners, it's time for another point of view. This first question, it's actually one that I got sent back at the end of 2018. I never discussed it on my show then, but I did promise I would discuss this in a future installment. It includes a link too, so that's in the video description down below if you want to check it out with me. Anyways, here goes. Question: what are your thoughts on this recent story that millennials are having fewer divorces and that divorce rates in the United States of America are on the decline? Alright, so first and foremost, let me say, way to go, young people of America. You did it. I mean, I gotta hand it to them. I'm impressed. Divorce rates dropped by 18% in an 8-year period between 2008 and 2016. Now, that's impressive, without a doubt. But as the article points out, a lot of factors affect this number. Young people or younger people aren't marrying as quickly as their older generation did. They're waiting longer before tying the knot. And by waiting longer, there's a whole thing about being older and wiser when they do marry. I think that leads to a better matrimony because, they took the time to take all things in consideration as best they could. So I think that's what they're getting right. There is a section in the article that says poorer couples aren't getting married, which is to say lower income families are just kind of cohabiting without getting married. And I think that is a cause for concern, I would say. The relationship isn't likely to be as stable because you just don't have the same stakes that you would in a marriage. And one partner could just decide to walk away from it. I think that's obvious to point out when you don't have a marriage in place. I think marriage, or at least the concept of marriage, becoming some exclusive institution to the upper class or the upper middle class of America, that is a problem. But really, if we're being honest, if poor families aren't getting married, I think it's safer to say that's more so the fault of the women in the relationship than it is the men. And yes, I'm specifically talking about heterosexual marriages here. Bear with me. Okay, so for starters, it's usually the lady who... channeling my inner Bill Burr there. But it's usually the lady who wants the grand ceremony to be made out of her wedding. So if the couple is poor, that's out of the picture in the woman's mind. The guy is not good enough to put a ring on it. And who knows, he might not even be able to afford the ring she wants. Because, that's how powerful the jewelry store marketing campaigns are in the United States. To be fair, though, I'm sure there's at least some female listeners thinking right now, what about guys who don't want to commit? And that's a fair point. Financial troubles play a pretty big deal in marriages ending in divorce. But I would argue any reasonable guy who knows he doesn't have the finances to support the lifestyle his spouse would expect isn't going to double down by marrying that someone who would probably prefer and maybe jump at the opportunity to get with another person with better financial prospects. And when the monies are when the odds are stacked like that against something working out, smart money says you don't bet half your stuff on it. You know, unless the other person is really going to see it through thick and thin, sickness and in health, good times and bad. Ultimately, though, it's nice to see the under 45 crowd hacking away at the divorce rate in America. Solid work. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below about this story. I'm actually kind of interested. All right, next. Oh, this one's got a link too. Question: what are your thoughts on life expectancy in the U.S. declining? Oh, damn. Talk about a complete change of tone. Jeez. I never can seem to have a completely positive episode. Okay, so let's see. Life expectancy dropping is linked to a year-to-year comparable rise in drug-related overdoses, influenza death, and suicide rates, as well as deaths caused by cancer and heart disease staying roughly the same. Okay, so yeah, first thought on this is way to go, modern medicine. Years of research, billions of dollars in donations, and still, cancer is one of the top 2 causes of death in the United States. And in case you can't tell, that was sarcasm. How sad is it, though, that research into modern medicine and drug companies have failed to make headway into solving one of the most infamous causes of deaths? But these same companies have time to get Americans addicted to painkillers and opioids. As far as increases in flu-related death and suicides, I think that's directly linked to increased wealth disparity. Poor people can't afford flu medication, so they try to tough it out, and they find out they made a fatal mistake. And the ones who do survive the flu can't afford other basic necessities or find themselves in despair and alone because they live in a shallow world that places importance on the phone they own, the car they drive, or the house they live in. And yes, I realize wealthy people can commit suicide too. Though, side note, Jeffrey Epstein definitely did not. Fight me, YouTube. But going back to my point, suicide rates going on the rise is definitely a crisis in need of attention. I think people need to build support structures to help them when they're most vulnerable, because, face it, life is tough. Family is usually the basis to start from, but not everyone has that support structure available to them. In that case, I'd suggest spending time connecting with some major branch of religion, the type that makes you attend a place of worship once a week, gives you a hobby and a chance to talk to people. That's always nice. And if that's not your thing, just get a general hobby to occupy your time. It doesn't have to be anything out of this world, just something to help you with getting the time to go by while you figure life out. But all in all, if you're an American listening to this, stay the hell away from using drugs. Don't smoke. Don't kill yourself. And damn it, limit your interaction time with people who have the flu. And if you have to interact with them, wash your damn hands afterwards. And don't be afraid to shower more than once a day if need be. You'll be fine. Alright, last one that I'm doing my special announcement. Question: how did your 2019 predictions pan out? And what are your predictions for 2020? Okay. Whew, it's been a whole year. Let me review my predictions for 2019, see what they were. Okay, so I did 3. I predicted 1, the Mueller investigation will come to an end in 2019. And I was correct on that. Going to pat myself on the back for that one. Victory lap. Woo! Also, screw you to whoever gave a thumbs down to that end of the year video I did with Pulp Sock and Crooklyn Banks. Fight me, you coward. But yeah, I got, that's one I got right. Alright, anyways, I also predicted that 2, there will be a conflict between Iran and another country. Those were exactly my words. Now, I didn't specify a country. That was, there was definitely a lot of teasing going on about this happening around the middle of the year, and near the end of it too, somewhat, when there was the whole Saudi oil tanker incident, and the United States looked like they were going to fight with Iran. But ultimately, nothing really flared up, just a series of incidents that just fizzled out. But yeah, I'd say this one could have gone either way, but ultimately, it's December 31st, and I was incorrect on this one. So I'll admit it. I got this one wrong. And last of all, I predicted 3. Another country will hold a referendum to leave the European Union. Yep, I got this one totally wrong. I'll admit it. Though I think it's interesting that after the last elections in the United Kingdom, it looks like Brexit is finally going to happen in 2020. And that's going to be done with. Time will tell on that one, though, because that wouldn't be the first time that they say, yeah, it's going to happen. Nothing happens. But yeah, let the record show. In 2018, I got 3 out of 5 predictions right. In 2019, I got 1 out of 3 predictions correct. Total score stands at 4 out of 8 predictions being correct. That is a 50% success rate for you math nerds out there. And I'd say that's all right for predictions. But it's time to see if my score improves in 2020. On that note, here are my predictions for 2020. So, first prediction. I'm going to predict that current senator from Vermont, a Bernard Sanders, will win the Democratic nomination and be the one to run against Donald John Trump for the U.S. presidency. I want to be clear, I'm not picking a winner for the presidency in that race. I think that one could go either way if that was the race. But what I am saying is Sanders will win the Democratic primary. That's prediction number 1. Second prediction. The United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate will both be under the control of the same political party after the 2020 election. I'm not specifically saying it's going to be the Democrats or Republicans that gain control of both. I'm just saying it's going to be decisive, and one party will have control of both houses. So that's prediction number 2. And the third and final prediction I'm going to make for 2020, and I hate to be a bummer here, but the American stock market is going to crash, and there will be another financial recession. That's prediction number 3. And those are my 3 predictions. How can I be so sure about what's going to happen? That's probably what some of you are probably wondering. You're probably thinking, do I know something I'm not telling you all? Well, as I always say with these, that's for me to know and you to find out. Let me know what your 2020 predictions are in the comments down below. Let's see if 2020 sees me taking a victory lap or not. Time will tell. Speaking of 2020, that brings me to an announcement I want to make. As some of you might know, this show has been going on for 5 seasons. I normally consider a year to be a season. So 2019 is supposed to be the cutoff for season 5. And 2020 is supposed to be the starting point for season 6. If I was keeping with tradition. But, and this is my announcement, after consideration, I have decided I'm going to do something different for 2020. Season 5 of Another Point of View will be the first season of this show to span 2 years. I promised you all an amazing season 5, and I intend to keep that promise. Stay tuned, because I will be back on the airways in 2020, much more regularly than I was this year. And let me just say, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm going to keep another promise I made for these Q&A episodes. I said I'd sing a song at the end of each episode. And I'm going to do that. But I'm going to keep this one short for you all. Just remember, I will be back 2020. Season 5 continues. Thank you for listening. I know you guys always, it means a lot to me when you do. Now, time for a quick song. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. And here's my hand, my trusty friend, and give a hand of thine. We'll take a cup of kindness, dear, for old lang syne. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. Happy New Year's, everyone!